We got more cuckoo bunker neighbors, all right? They just don't stop. Hopefully it's not, hopefully more fences aren't being built. My neighbor keeps trying to break into my apartment. Casual. So here's a fun little mystery from my building. Every single day, morning and evening, at 5 a.m. and again at 10 p.m., like clockwork, my neighbor tries to open my apartment door with the handle, like it's his. No key, just a firm jiggle jiggle of the handle before he realizes it's not opening and then just casually walks away. For context, I'm a 22-year-old woman living alone. He is probably in his 50s or 60s. Not super chatty, talks to himself a lot though, like full conversations alone. Also, and I swear I'm not making this up, when he leaves his own apartment, he closes the door and then rings his own doorbell. Every time. No one ever answers. I have so many questions. So do I. At first, I thought, honest mistake. But the thing is, he's been living here longer than I have, so he should know which door is his, right? But we are now weeks into this daily routine. Sir, I promise you, this has never been your apartment. It wasn't yesterday, it won't be tomorrow, and yet he persists. Like maybe one day the stars will align and suddenly the door will open and he'll walk into a parallel universe or something. I've decided to slip a polite little note into his mailbox, something friendly but clear, just to say, hey, stop trying to open my door, thanks. Maybe that will be the end of it. Or maybe he'll just start knocking for good measure. Who knows? I'm considering leaving a note on the door, a sign, something like, still not your door, champ, or just embrace the chaos and start waving through the peephole every time he tries. Has this happened to anyone else? Am I staring into someone's confused sitcom without knowing? We do have an update. My thoughts at first were, what if he's not trying to break in? Well, he is trying to break in. My thoughts were he knows you live alone and he's just trying to see if you left it unlocked. Because I watch a lot of true crime. But then all the other things, I'm thinking mentally, there might be more here. He might not be mentally in his right state of mind. Let's see the update. Well, folks, we've had progress. Maybe. Sort of. Here's what happened. After my last post, I left a little note in my neighbor's mailbox. Friendly tone, but clear message. I then proceeded to live my little quiet life until the next day when, plot twist, he knocked on my door. At the exact moment I hear knocking, I know it's him. Call it female intuition or whatever. So I open my door, I smile, say hi, like everything is all right. I'm a nice neighbor, you see. He asks me if I'm the one who put a note in his mailbox, and then proceeds to tell me very insistently that it's not him. Not once, not twice, but multiple times, like a gaslighting remix on loop. I tell him I hear his door open, and then a few seconds later, my handle jiggles. He smiles, shakes his head, and says, nope, wasn't him. So I play it cool and drop a casual. It actually wakes up me and my boyfriend. Because hey, being a woman living alone next to a strange door enthusiast doesn't feel amazing. Still, he denies everything. So in the name of peaceful and survival, I smile. I'm the nice neighbor here, remember? Say, I must have made a mistake. Hope he doesn't mind. Really sorry for the trouble. And I close the door. I then proceed to check my locks. Not once, not twice. Honestly, I lost count. And just a quick note for those worried about my safety. I see you, protective internet strangers. I have 2 locks and a chain on the door, and I never forget to lock it. I even check it multiple times a day when I'm home. We're staying safe and paranoid, the ultimate combo. Now here's the fun part. This morning, for the first time in ages, no door handle rattle, which strongly suggests, yeah, it was him. Surprise! A miracle, or maybe he walked into a parallel universe. But my bet is he just realized I knew what he was doing. But because there's always one, around 4 a.m., I heard him open and close his door twice, like full door theatrics. Open, close, lock, repeat. not quietly, not once, twice. So while he's no longer touching my door, for now, let's make a bet. How long will it last? I'm taking guesses. He's still apparently living out some kind of nocturnal hallway ritual. Don't ask me why. The hallway spirits, maybe? Or OCD, as many of you suggested. So yeah, we're celebrating small wins. For now, my door gets to rest in peace. Let's hope it stays that way. And let's all repeat it together. Some doors just aren't yours, buddy. See, I wouldn't sleep at night. No way. I'm installing a camera. I'm getting a big dog. I'm doing many things. I probably would have lied and told him I had a camera. Even if he couldn't see it, I'd be like, I have a hidden camera.
I know it's you.
But I still feel like there's more there. I don't know, it's hard to say. You're like, maybe someone really is a serial killer, or maybe they're innocent and they just suffer from something, or both. Neighbor shot an arrow into my fence at head level on purpose. This happened not too long ago. I walked outside in my backyard to feed my birds. While I was walking to the feeders, I heard such a loud noise, I jumped and spilled half the bird seed. I looked around and saw nothing, so I proceeded to pour the bird seed into my feeders. Then I heard a whooshing sound. I looked up and my neighbor on his side of the fence was pulling an arrow through the fence. I was like, what the F, dude? You shot my fence. This guy keeps repeating, I wasn't aiming at your fence, ma'am. So it was on purpose. With a huge emphasis on ma'am. I told them someone could have been hurt. The arrow had gone through the fence at least 8 inches, and it was about 2 or 3 feet to the left at neck level from where I was feeding the birds. I was so shaken up. I told him that it could have hit me, and he proceeded to tell me that I wasn't standing that close to the fence. He had a massive attitude the whole time. After I called him every name in the book, I had to go inside before I climbed over the fence. Needless to say, he's going to pay for the fence repair. What a jerk. Ma'am, you're taking this very lightly. That could have been like, is that not attempted murder? Or am I just being dramatic? Had that gone through your head?
Murder.
But anyone else thinking what I'm thinking? Maybe he wasn't aiming for her, but was aiming for a bird, which is also disturbing, by the way. I don't know. I think maybe I just watched too much true crime, but like everything that happens like this, my spidey senses.
Murder.
Trust no one, ever, or their intentions. What a miserable way to live life, I know. My neighbor was being robbed, so I called the police and they discovered a weed farm, and I think the robbers know I called the police? What should I do? Change your identity and move to a different country. Sounds reasonable. My sister was woken up by the sound of a window breaking. She looked outside and saw people throwing cement blocks at my neighbor's window and breaking in. My sister panicked and turned on her room lights and called the police. By the time the police arrived, they were gone and stormed into the house. And a weed farm was there and started taking away bags of the stuff and the equipment from their house. I think they noticed my sister's lights suddenly turn on. Strangely enough, my family suspected my previous neighbors used to live in that house where we also grew weed because of the amount of times police showed up on their door. One time, the police even raided the house. I am incredibly scared that my family will become a target for violence because we snitched. You didn't snitch though. You called the police because their house was being broken into. Here's the thing. If a house is being robbed, I think the robbers are aware any of the surrounding houses could hear this and call the police. And if the police get called, they know it's someone close by. Neighbor drives through my yard and dumps their garbage on my property. I've been dealing with some bad neighbors for 3 years now. I thought I'd share my story both for entertainment value, but also ask, what would you do differently in my situation? The context behind the neighbors. An old man lives there who had a wife that passed away before I moved in. Now, some younger people from the projects who are related to him take advantage of him and live with him rent-free. How they met? I don't know. Despite the less than reputable characters that live with him, the old man is the biggest thorn in my side. I wish I could post pictures in this subreddit, but I'll just have to describe it. My house is situated further back from the road than theirs. I can also see into their backyard from my front door. The old man likes to drive into his yard and pull up to his front door to unload groceries so he doesn't have to walk as far to take them into the house. I understand that part. The problem is he pulls down my driveway, then across my yard to get to his front door. It kills my grass and leaves ruts in the yard. Yeah, you shouldn't drive a car on anybody's yard. The next time I saw him outside, I asked him to stop driving in my yard, and he said he would, but he kept doing it. A second time I asked him to stop, and again, it didn't stop. After the third, I was angry. So I went to his house and I pounded on the door, but nobody answered. I went home, wrote an angry note, and package taped it to his door, threatening to call the police if this happened again. Sure enough, it happened again. So after the fourth time it happened, I went to the police and the police told him to stop, and he did. To this day, he hasn't driven in my yard. Thank goodness. But the story doesn't end here. After my trouble with them, I put Ring cameras up on my property, and last month my cameras caught something baffling. He dumped a big box TV on my property. I have a huge yard and a lot of land. I even own some woods. He has a fenced yard and also owns some woods. He rode his lawnmower into my front yard, down my side yard, and into my backyard, all the way to my woods, and dumped a box TV back there. It wasn't even 3 feet into the woods. Why not leave that at the side of the road? You know, rather than leave it by the curb for the garbage company to recycle for free, he had to get rid of it on my property.
The audacity.
So naturally, I took a picture of the TV and pulled the recordings from my cameras, and I took it to the police. Naturally. The police are charging him with littering and forcing him to remove the TV and dispose of it properly, as well as trespassing him from my property. He'll be hit with the criminal mischief if he sets even a foot on my property again. There was one morning last year where I woke up to go to work in the morning, and there were like 10 local police cars and state cops all outside his house. Here, the people from the projects that were living with him were even dealing drugs out of his house, and they were doing a bust on them. Ooh. Everyone but the old man was arrested, and they had just got let out of jail this month and are back in the house. He let them go back in the house after a full-on drug bust. I really need to move. It's embarrassing because I live in such a nice neighborhood. It's the reason I even picked the house. The location. I've talked to my other neighbors about the bad neighbors, and they said everything was fine before the old man's wife died. That breaks my heart. But now he almost seems like he has dementia and is being taken advantage of by some people. And now I have drugs and trespassers right next door. FML. We have an update. Yesterday, my camera caught my neighbor leaving a handwritten note on my door that I read when I got home from work. And I also heard from the police regarding the TV. I'll start with the conversation I had with the police and leeway into the note that he left on my door. The police had been trying to reach my neighbor by phone for the last week and had made multiple visits to their house to tell them to remove the TV, but he wasn't answering his phone or the door. So the officers on duty have been making routine visits on our street to see if they could catch him outside, and they finally did. They told him he had to remove the TV, and he was livid, naturally. He tried to claim that the property wasn't mine and it was his. It's mine, not sure why he thinks otherwise, considering a fence separates our properties, and that he could do what he wants. The officer said whether it was mine or his was irrelevant, as littering is littering, and you can't dispose of electronic waste by dumping it in the woods and pretending that it isn't there. So they told him he has to dispose of it properly, and they told me if the TV isn't gone in 3 to 4 days to call them again, and they're going to give him a citation for it. So it was yesterday that this conversation happened between them. Around lunchtime was when my Ring camera caught him leaving the note. The note said along the lines of, I am giving you until June 1st to trim branches of a tree on your property that are dropping leaves and twigs into my property, or I'm filing a civil suit against you. I am tired of picking up the sticks and leaves dropped on my yard by your tree. So naturally, the first thing I did was look up my state and local laws, and also went to the police station to notify the officers that this happened so they were aware of it and could make a report. The officers at the station told me not to worry about it. They know what he's like and he wouldn't actually go through with it. He's just mad I got him in trouble and is taking it out on me with any excuse he can come up with. And the officers told me it's not my responsibility to take care of it. Our state and local laws state that it's not the responsibility of the owner to trim branches that protrude over the property line, but that property owner that it is protruding on is allowed to cut back the branches back off their property line. Whether you agree with that or not, it's up to you, but that's the law, and I both read and that the police department informed me of. But here's the thing. The tree is healthy and it's not dropping large branches or anything of that sort, nor does it go over anything that would cause damage to his property. Even if it did, insurance takes care of it. It's not my responsibility. He's obviously butthurt about me getting him in trouble these last few months and is reaching at anything he possibly can to cause trouble for me, like I have for him. Unfortunately, I'm an upstanding citizen and he has no grounds to get me in trouble with anything. Also, our police department and local government despise him and his residents so much that even if this was somehow to go to court, his words is nothing compared to mine. He's not mad about a drug bust going on in his home, but he's mad about some branches and sticks, some leaves and sticks. I forget what he's even mad about. So I'm calling his bluff and ignoring him. I know him well enough at this point too. I'm not giving him the attention he wants. If he would have been kind about the situation and had a respectful conversation with me about the tree, I would have been a lot more considerate. But he didn't even talk to me about it. Now that he thinks he can threaten me, he can forget it. The amount he's inconvenienced me severely outweighs leaves falling from my tree into his yard. Maybe when he stops driving across my yard and dumping garbage on my property and trespassing, I'll think about whether or not to help him. I can't believe there's people on this planet who are so selfish. I'm so thankful the police have been so helpful and understanding of the situation, but it seems no matter how many times I send them and no matter how willing they are to cause trouble for me, this needless drama won't end until they are out of the house or I just leave. I keep to myself. I'm a single, quiet guy who minds his own business in his own house. I just want to be left alone. It's time to start looking elsewhere, I think. Anyways, I hope my strife has been entertaining. I'll probably have another update after the first week of June regarding all of this. Would you have done anything differently? Let me know if you have any advice. Thanks. Interesting. Would you guys have done anything differently? Would you have just said, all right, I'll trim my bushes? Would you have told them, would you have called the police about the TV? How would you handle this? I didn't need to call the police. My neighbor called the police on themselves and got themselves escorted. They was fighting all the time. If you're an OG, you know I was filming when the police were outside my door. I looked out the people and I was like, police officers. I was so nosy. I remember recording being like, be right back. I gotta go listen. Upstairs neighbors are running. The landlord won't do anything about it. We are moving out. What is it with everyone and dealing shrugs? Gotta censor it. You guys know how it goes. For context, we rent a lower floor in a 2-story house that was converted into 2 units, downstairs and upstairs. About a month ago, my wife and I became aware of a case involving our upstairs neighbor's boyfriend. He was arrested in April for possession of, I can't say all those words, illegal substances and all sorts of other things. Also had an unlicensed weapon upstairs since he was unable to have a weapon due to previous cases. 3 prior.
assault charges.
And when I say weapon, I mean a pew-pew. Although he wasn't on the lease, he put the address of our upstairs neighbors as his place of permanent residence. It was pretty quiet upstairs for a couple of weeks, and we noticed people taking giant garbage bags and other things that we assumed were this guy's belongings and putting them in their cars. Towards the end of April, a new guy came to live with our neighbor, and things really picked up since then. We have people just sitting in cars outside of the apartment at all times. People walking up and down their stairs, and our neighbor and her new boyfriend will go outside at 3 a.m. and check their hood before driving off. We have begun to feel unsafe after knowing about the previous person who had lived up there, and now this guy probably has the exact same background. We had originally sent the case to our landlord so he could see what was going on in one of his units. He said that he would talk to her and tell her to move out. When he talked to her, she spun the story to make it look like she was a victim and that the shrug dealers were using her and putting her in a vulnerable situation. She also said that she already had a detective on case and that she had nowhere else to go. Our landlord then, in turn, called us to relay the situation and to tell us that he won't be pushing eviction because it would take too much time. I do want to say that it could be true and our neighbor could really be a victim in a dangerous situation, but our neighbor has lied and gaslit us in the past about previous things that she has run from our landlord, but she hadn't had a conversation with him. I just find it hard to believe because she's helping these people move the shrugs and driving them to various places with her vehicle. You would assume that she'd be able to have gathered enough evidence for whatever detective that she has on her case to have something to book the bad guys in the situation, but I guess not. I mean, if it's like a big shrug ring and she's involved, that could be very dangerous for her.
Murder.
Like realistically, I don't know the situation, but if it is that. My question is, what can I really do in this situation besides move? We've already done as much as we can, as we've already contacted our neighbor and the police. If it was just my wife and I, we'd probably stay as we really love our house. Oh, but we have a baby, and I feel like exposing him to that is very dangerous, especially since we have a shared vent system in the house. The whole situation is so dumb, and I wish we weren't having to move, but I don't see any other option at this point. Any insight, positive words of encouragement, or criticism of how I'm handling this situation would be gladly appreciated and welcomed. Also could be dangerous of like all those different people showing up there, especially when it has to do with illegal substances. If I knew that was going on the regular, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that with a baby in the house. Yeah. Neighbor nearly broke my window tonight. We live in a townhome complex and have someone's yard behind us. About 11 years ago, the guy put up a tall privacy fence which blocked our nice view of the park on the other side of his yard. It sucked, but I understood. I wouldn't want my yard open to the riffraff who lived in the complex either. The complex owners have been working on the problems, and the really bad ones are gone, but I guess there are still a few teens who have nothing better to do. This guy also thinks he owns the park and apparently tells kids what they can and can't do. It's a city park, so I don't know who this guy thinks he is or why he can police the park. But I digress. This evening, I was sitting in my living room getting ready to play my PS5 when I heard something hit our living room window. My cats jumped to see what it was, so I thought maybe it was a bird. Nope, it was a mangled roll of box tape that I saw in our complex a couple weeks ago. I'm guessing it landed in his yard when our maintenance guys mowed. Likely tossed by the mower, and he decided to just chuck it over the fence. He's done this before, one time coming within feet of hitting my dog and me with a chunk of wood. Yes, it's a shame that our rental complex has a lot of people who don't know how to use a trash can, but that there isn't a proper crew to clean up the entire complex every day, but to just throw something without seeing what you might hit? I went outside and told him to not throw stuff out my windows. I sure don't want a broken window, and I definitely don't want my pets to be hit by flying debris or broken glass. He just walked away, no apologies, nothing. He came back later to finish weed whacking what his section of the yard was, and I made sure that my Ring camera was recording in case he decided to throw something else at our townhouse. Of all the people in the complex to piss off, I was one who actually cared enough to put up a Ring camera after his fence was vandalized. Next time, I'll just tell the police that they'll need a warrant to look at the footage because I sure as hell am not willingly helping that guy again. Y'all, neighbor drama is so entertaining, but it really gives me a headache because your home is your home. Like, that's your safe space. And you got to deal with a crappy neighbor every day in your safe space. Couldn't be me. Also, look at my nails. I did them myself. Oh, there's a little bow and diamonds. No one cares. I care. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on this. I'll see you guys in the comments. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy.